Hi, my name is Shalesha Smith, and this is Franklin Boulevard Media. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts. I got to Gastonia, actually, it was not a choice of mine. I was the tender age of 12, middle of 7th grade, and my immediate family decided to move down to North Carolina, Gastonia to be exact. I had never been to Gastonia before, so everything was very foreign to me, especially if you could think of coming from a city like Boston where things are very high paced, to coming down to a city where I knew nothing and knew no one. It was a bit terrifying. I went to Greer Middle School. Go Knights. Greer Knights, right. Greer, like I said, I came down here in the middle of 7th grade. So I didn't have a very warm welcoming, unfortunately. I don't know if it was just me being new, not already having a friendship established, but I was able to adjust and make friends, fortunately, thankfully. I also joined the track team, which I absolutely loved, and was able to continue building myself, building friends, networks. And yeah, I feel like that was a big transition for me once I got acquainted into a social group in a sport that I really appreciated and admired. That was something that really took me off and took me out of my comfort zone or being a little bit shy, to being a beautiful butterfly that I am today. From Greer, I went to Ashbrook Greenway. Ashbrook was lit. I had a really good time at Ashbrook. By the time I had got to high school, I had developed a friend circle. I continued to do sports. I was also very well academically, so I fit very well into Ashbrook. Ashbrook had a lot to offer. I enjoyed the teachers. They were really passionate about us as students. They had a lot going on at Ashbrook that I felt like really lended a hand to the type of person that I am today, of being outspoken, going after what I want, and just standing up for myself. After high school, I didn't have a solid plan, but it was Mr. Ross. If anybody knows Mr. Ross, knows that he's the truth and is somebody who is really dedicated to the success of the students. I know he has a background in social work, and so he was someone that really kind of took me up under his wing. Ashbrook, I had some good moments and then some not so good moments. I got into some trouble, fighting and just not doing the right thing all the time. And I feel like, saw something in me and just was like, nah, we're not about to have this. So he would bring me into his office. We would have talks. He would be like, what are you doing with yourself, Shalesha? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? And I think that was another thing, or another person that really helped shift my mindset and even starting to think about college, because I hadn't applied to any schools. And so we did a little bit of research, and I actually only applied to one school, which was UNCG. Thankfully, I got in, and so that was definitely a proud moment for me. Social work. So not only was it Mr. Ross that was a huge impact and influence in my life as far as social workers. In the past, I had also dealt with some social workers, and I felt like some of the things that I was going through, it was social workers that I feel like really took the time out to hear me out, and even being a child, to understand, or at least try to understand, what I was going through, and to offer advice, guidance, and assistance, versus just telling me, you need to do this and you need to do that, but actually showing me a path and giving me some guidance. I had done social work from being in school to actually graduating and having my first real job as a social worker over the span of about 10 years. And I really love social work, still love social work to this day. But I also had a talent for doing hair. I didn't do it as much. It was more so like a hobby that I would do every once in a while. I have 3 sisters, so I grew up doing their hair, my mom, people in the neighborhood. So it was just something that I just was born with, that talent of being able to do hair. But it wasn't until the pandemic where I started getting into doing hair more frequently. Fortunately, I was able to still keep my full-time job as a social worker, but I was working remotely, so that allowed me free time and space to also take clients. And it was just an experience that I woke up ready to do hair, ready to take on clients, ready to receive or make that phone call to schedule an appointment. And it just had me feeling like a boss. So I thought about it, and at the time I was working my job as a social worker. I was helping young adults find their path, whether it be a career or school or different things like that. So I felt like I was well versed in a lot of the resources that was in the community. And so I was thinking, like, if I'm helping somebody else do this, I could be helping myself too. So I just took it upon myself to do a little research, find different schools in the area, see what the cost was, how far it was. And then after that, it was just like I had to make a decision, because I knew I couldn't work a full-time job and also go to school. I know people do it all the time, but for me, in my case, I had to pick one or the other. And I remember I had a conversation with my mom, and I told her I was thinking about quitting my job and pursuing going to school for cosmetology to get my license. And she was like, I don't know, you went to school, you have your degree, you have your master's, you've been in this job, you got benefits. I don't know about you quitting your job. And I understand where that came from, of her being my mom and just wanting to look out for me and wanting the best for me and being a little nervous about the unknown. And but I was like, but I always have my degree, so I can go back if this doesn't work. But I have faith, and I know this is something that I really am passionate about doing. And so she gave me the green light, and I quit my job and I went to school to get my license to do hair. I started at Supercuts. So I started at Supercuts, and that was intentional because while I was in hair school, they kind of teach you the bare minimum and basics of a couple of different things, barbering being one of them. And I remember when we first started learning about barbering, I was nervous, so scared, because it's kind of like cooking. When you put too much salt in something, you can't take it out. So it's like the same thing when you're cutting hair. You cut too much and it's just like, ugh, I can't put it back on. So it was just really made me a little nervous, a little anxious, but also inspired me. At the time, a lot of my clients had locks, and also for the male clients that had locks, they would leave from me doing their hair and go straight to the barbershop. So I started thinking like, I already know how to do locks and I know how to do them well. Now, if I could only learn also how to do barbering, that's extra money in my pocket, one-stop shop, and who doesn't want that? And so the advice that was given to me from my instructor at hair school was to start off at a place like Supercuts, because they take you through a training, teach you some of the basics and the fundamentals of barbering that you can use and take with any texture of hair. And so I started working at Supercuts, and it's also such a fast pace. You have people coming in like clockwork, every 10 minutes or so. And also you have to work at a faster pace of getting people in and having their hair cut within a matter of 20 minutes. So that kind of pushed me even more outside of my comfort zone and tested me to like, all right, I want to do a great haircut, and I have to be efficient with it. So over the time of being able to work at Supercuts, I was able to build my skill in barbering, and now to be a loctician, cosmetologist, barber, all of the above. That was in Boston, Massachusetts. And so after about almost a year, I was working at Supercuts, and I had been gaining so many clients at the time. And I'm just a person that I like to explore. I like to do things. I like experiences, new places, new cultures, new people. And I don't have any children at the time. And I figured I want to explore. I want to be a traveling stylist. I want to go to other places, see other cities, see how other stylists are doing things. I want to be on the go. At the time I was living in Boston, I was doing hair out of my apartment, but I would also travel to my clients. And then I would also come back down to North Carolina and pick up clients. So I had a little bit of that traveling experience in me. So I was like, all right, I want to move from Boston now. So the plan was to come back to North Carolina for just a couple of months over the holidays, see my family. And my sister was pregnant at the time, so I wanted to see the baby. And then I was going to move to Dallas. I had only been to Dallas one time. I have a good friend that lives there, and I really loved it. And so the plan was to move to Dallas, but when I moved to North Carolina, things just started flowing for me. I was able to rent a space, and that space turned into me actually working in a salon with Ashley Struther. She is a phenomenal stylist herself, owner of the shop. And so it just was a really great fit. And so after that, just everything just started picking up. I started being more inspired, gaining clientele. And so I was able to continue traveling, going back to Boston, because my clients in Boston was like, oh no, we don't want nobody else touching our hair. So that was another like push and motivation. Like, okay, people really love what I'm doing with their hair and how I'm making them feel. And I wanna spread that. Business downtown Gastonia is great. Even though grew up in Gastonia, I didn't really know too much about downtown. I didn't really go to downtown too much. I think the only thing I really remember is like going up there for the Christmas parades. But just to see and to hear people talking about how much downtown Gastonia has been built up, from different businesses to the people that are living down there, I'm amazed. And especially as a Black female myself, to know that other Black businesses are thriving in this particular area, I am ecstatic about that. So business is really good. I love the scenery of it all. We're right outside the pavilion, so we get a lot of walk-through traffic, people taking their lunch breaks or just taking a walk or visiting the town or whatever it is. I get to kind of stop and chat with them for a little bit, talk about who they are, how they're doing, and also introduce them to who I am and the shop that I work at and its convenience. So then we also get a lot of traffic, again, because the space is so beautiful. The pavilion is right out there, the water fountain. And the Gastonian Halls is also right across the street as well. So there's a lot of wedding receptions, prom, so people come out there taking their pictures. So it's a lot of traffic. I get to sightsee and people watch, and it's exciting. So my idea from doing the gala actually came from a couple different pots. My uncle used to take me to the Ebony Gala in Boston, Massachusetts when I was younger. And it was a sight that I had never seen before. It had my eyes wide, just to be in a space and in an environment with lots of different people, Black, brown, white, everything in between, dressed up, looking real nice, partying. There were different rooms that were set up with different genres of music. So you could pop in one room and be dancing into some R&B and then go into the next room and hear some smooth, mellow jazz, food laid out. It was just like a real spectacle, a really nice event that had the city talking for weeks and months after. And so just being able to witness that was just something that was definitely ingrained in my mind. And then so also knowing that for me, doing hair is more than just doing hair. I like to create experiences for my clients, and also the social worker is still in me. So I love the aspect of community organizing. So in me just being a creative, it's like, it started off as me wanting to do something special for my clients, as far as like wanting to have a photo shoot for them. And then I was like, nah, but you can go bigger. You could do better. You could, and being in the space of everything just clicked. Everything was just working out. I was in the right place at the right time, and having that exposure to being downtown and being right across the street from Gastonian Halls and seeing the wedding receptions. So I was like, well, maybe I could get this place and rent it out and make it look real nice and elegant. And so it was a Sunday morning. I looked online, Gastonia Halls was closed, but I was so anxious, so excited. I called anyway. They answered, they gave me a quote. It was within my budget. So I was like, oh, I got one yes? Okay, let me work on the next one. So then ideas just started rolling in, and before I knew it, I had a whole itinerary, I had a whole budget, I had reached out to the event space, I had called Luna to be the host, I had called the DJ, photographer, and just being able to have that support really shifted my mind, like, this can really happen. And I felt like could be something really great for Gastonia, because I know a lot of people talk about we don't have a whole lot of events going on. We usually have to go to Charlotte. So I wanted to create something fun, something exciting, something memorable, something that would create a statement, something more than a club, more than a lounge, and something that would just be engraved in Gastonia history. So I've learned in planning this gala and being able to connect with others and resource with others that we are a strong community, and sometimes I don't think we realize how strong, how creative, how talented we are until somebody just kind of takes that leap of faith and like, let's do this, and just creating a platform for us to all to shine, to be acknowledged, to show representation, because there are a lot of stylists out here, there are a lot of barbers, there are a lot of very talented artists, creatives, and we don't always know each other. And I feel like even just being inspired from somebody else that may be in the same field, like I'm a loctician, for instance, but I'm super inspired when I see other locticians doing styles that I would have never even thought of, or showing a technique, or different things like that, just to expand our creativity and who we are and working together. You just never know who's going to be that missing piece to that puzzle to propel you to the next stage of your life. So I've definitely learned that we are definitely stronger together, that we are creative, and that we are resourceful. Yeah, what would I do, or what would I tell somebody who was trying to pivot or go into a different direction? I would say just having confidence in yourself, believing in yourself, having a plan. I'm a planner, I'm an organizer, writing things down, creating a to-do list. If you have a goal, what are some steps that are gonna help you achieve that goal? Also, using your network, letting people know who you are, what you're interested in. There may be a way that they personally can help you, or know somebody else that can help you or give you some guidance or feedback of what it is that you might need to know to take that next step. But I would say go for it. The sky, beyond the sky, there is no limit. There is no limit. Do what you want to do. There's a quote that I like to live by, and it is, no one is you, and that is your power. And what you do with that is even more powerful. So just being able to recognize who you are, the talents that you have, and where they can take you.